is David Goldie, the World Wrestling Grand Prix champion, and you're listening to the Alliance Guys podcast. This is your first and only two-time dog heavyweight champion, Breaker Moran, and you're listening to the Alliance Guys podcast.
Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Bobby.
The Alliance blog, the Alliance blog, the Alliance blog, the Alliance blog. Alliance? If you put an S in front of Alliance, you have Salliance. That's me.
Building an alliance.
Will you join us?
It's showtime.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
You're not here, you missing out, because this show...
Ladies and gentlemen.
All right, listen up. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast.
I'm building an alliance.
Will you join us?
It'd be better if that didn't keep playing. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast. Alliance Guys, podcast. We can call it that. My name is Jake. His name is Jaden. We are two of the three Alliance Guys. We're just waiting for DKM to join us here momentarily. And we are here to talk to you. Oh, there he is.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
I was trying to close YouTube, which I had in another tab, and of course I clicked the great, browser X.
That's a great shirt you got on there.
It is.
I know. A friend gave it to me.
Oh, was she hot?
Wait a minute. It was a woman?
She was the one that put it in the envelope and mailed it.
Well, then you would probably think she was hot.
I think she's gorgeous. Drop dead gorgeous. I punted far outside my coverage, and I'm very happy to report that.
I'm so glad we're here. There's J. Cal, the founder of the Alliance Guys, and then myself and DK.
So anyway, as I was saying,
I fell out of my chair.
I was about to give DK a compliment and say DK and I made it great, but you know what? He's not even an investor anymore.
Anyhow, as things go,
wow. Wow.
Inside joke, guys. Three people think it's hilarious.
Hey,
and if anybody ever wants to know why I love these two, this is it.
I want to say something real quick.
No.
I had the opportunity to sit down with the NWA US Tag Team Champion, the one, the only AJ Kazana. I got to sit down with him. Well, I mean, technically it was over this thing, but sat down with him on Tuesday. That video will air on Wednesday on our Spotify account. You can go find it now. It's on Twitch, but if you prefer, it'll also be available on Spotify, iTunes. We're trying to do more of the audio podcasting again. I did an interview also earlier this week with Andrew Pacina, who is the proprietor of Epic Pro Wrestling here in Los Angeles. And so we'll be doing some more of those interviews. I've got a couple more lined up. We're going to be speaking to Jared Fritz, NWA referee, very, very soon. Also some talent from Southern California, Matthias. And then we're trying to reach out to Big Mama and have her come on as well. So don't be surprised if you see more of these interviews coming, and we'll be putting those again on our audio podcast, the Alliance Blog podcast. And that's available, like I said, on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple, iTunes, anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, all that good stuff. Sorry, I got to do a little house cleaning. The channel, the YouTube channel has been growing very well, and I do appreciate everyone that's been subscribing and being a part of the growth of this live stream podcast stuff. But, at my at the root of all this, what I really enjoy doing is interviews. I really enjoy talking to people. So I'm going to try to do more of that. And I figure that this YouTube is the best vehicle for us to discuss wrestling. And I think the audio portions will be the best place to speak to wrestlers. So, and people within the industry. So that was my little part on that. Willie Bowen got a thing for Big Mama. I'll say this. I got to see her live and in person, and she obviously, you know, she is a bad biker chick, but very charming individual. And I could see people getting smitten with her very easy. You eating a Dove bar? What would you do?
No, it's going to be part of a s'more later.
Oh.
Big Mama is a legitimate hottie, and Tyrus is a legitimate fatty.
Oh, he's a legitimate naughty.
No, don't ever say that again.
What's a naughty?
Ew.
What's a naughty with you? I don't care. Don't ever say that again.
All right.
You don't know what a naughty is?
No.
Okay. When you get old enough, I'll explain it to you.
Bad boy, very bad.
Not necessarily a bad boy, but
very bad.
Hey, I don't yuck anybody's yum. Whatever you guys are into, man, that's cool.
I'll explain it to you after the podcast so we don't get demonetized.
I appreciate you for saying that. So we got a lot to get to this week. We're going to get to Power a little bit earlier than usual. But, man, it's been an exciting week for if you're a fan of the National Wrestling Alliance. There's been a lot of great things happening that I think, some people might be flying under the radar on. And, we'll get to all of it momentarily. But, I think it's really telling that the NWA was able to broker this détente with the TKO partners and being able to have Natty Neidhart, Natalia Neidhart, come to the NWA, I think is a huge, huge get for the NWA. I don't think that this is going to be a automatic sellout because Natty Neidhart's going to be on the card, and we'll get to it momentarily, but I really think it's a huge victory for the National Wrestling Alliance, and I'll get Jaden's take and DK's take before I'll elaborate any further than that. But other than that, how are you guys doing? DK, what's it like over there?
Lots of lack of sleep and even more lack of sleep, and then some lacking sleep.
I'm with you on those three. Jaden, how are you? What's going on with you?
It's windy.
It's windy. It's been raining over here a lot. We've been getting some rain. Oh, I got a new tattoo. Did you guys see this?
Yes, actually, you did show that to me, but I'd like to see it again. It's very shiny.
Yeah, well, I'm still putting the Aqua 4 on it to keep it healthy, but this is a it's called like a Piper, like Rendon and Rodent, something like that. It kind of looks like a
rodent,
not a rodent, a rodent. Anyway, that's what I did. That's what I did last week. I went to the dentist. That was a lot of fun. Got them digging in my mouth. My teeth are shinier than ever, and it's been a good week. Very, very busy. Again, we're putting a lot of content up at alliance-wrestling.com. If you guys haven't been there in a while, I hope you check it out. We're posting the results of any shows that I go to, including GCW's Coldest Winter. We've been doing a lot of podcasting, a lot of live streams. We've got the World Heavyweight Champion going to be defended next week in Canada. We've got NWA Chicago happening this Friday. And all these things that are coming up, we're talking about them on the website. So make sure you check out alliance-wrestling.com because it really is your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network and any wrestling promotion I happen to go to.
What, you go see wrestling?
Yeah, you know what? And I know you guys are going to love this. My brother says, hey, Jason. He doesn't call me Jason. Hey, Jason, you want to go to All Elite Wrestling on Sunday at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, California? And I said, well, sure, Jimmy Jam, let's do this. And he says, okay.
Jimmy Jam?
My brother's name is James, so I've always called him Jimmy Jam.
Like the Freebird?
Yes. Jimmy Jam, Jimbo, James.
Hey You. And a few that aren't appropriate for young children.
What?
Oh, come on. I have a brother. I know how things work.
You're the older brother, right?
No, I'm the younger.
You are the younger brother.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever used to wrestle in the house?
Not so much. He's 10 years older than me.
Okay.
So, although oddly enough, my dad and I used to box in the house.
Wild. My brother and I used to wrestle, and I remember every time that he'd hurt me, like I'd sprain a finger or he'd throw me too hard into the couch and the couch would break. Like he'd be like, and you start crying, oh, Mom. Don't cry. I'll give you this G.I. Joe if you shut up. It's like, I want Snake Eyes.
Sounds like you. Never happy.
Yeah. Figure 4 says we need to make a push for Carson Drake to drop in the show one night.
I don't drop off a building.
I don't think that Carson Drake would have any desire to hear me tell him how uncool he is. Now,
You could educate him on what beta alanine is, please.
Maybe. I did say earlier I spoke to AJ Kazana and I told him how much I did not like Carson Drake. I don't keep these things just for you guys. I don't care who hears, right? I don't care. That's the thing. I don't
care anymore.
I'm not beholden to anybody or anything. This is my baby. This alliance, the alliance is my baby. And there's nobody anywhere can do anything to take that away from me. So, with that being said, if Carson Drake wants to come on and hear me talk shit about Carson Drake, I'd be more than happy to have him on. I would love to have him on because I would tell him that I don't think he's entertaining. I'd tell him I don't think that the character has developed the way it should be, and I would tell him that I think he's overrated.
That's why you're excited for his upcoming World Heavyweight Championship match.
We'll get to that momentarily. Let's talk about Power. Let's talk about NWA Power because this was the finale of this. I don't know if they broke this into seasons or how they determine seasons because, in the old days, it would be we do a bunch of TV until we got to a pay-per-view, and then we'd renew the season after the pay-per-view. Now, because the signature live events are practically TV tapings, I don't know when the delineation of one season starts and one season ends. So we know we had 5 episodes of the signature live event Looks at Kill. This was the finale of that. Again, all these matches were filmed at the Dothan Civic Center in Dothan, Alabama on December 14th of 2024, which means that we've been watching dated material. It's almost 3 months old now. So, where was I going? So this show kicked off with what I thought was, there was a lot of potential here to be good and bad. And I'll be honest, DK, we hadn't talked about it yet. I felt like there was more good than bad on this program.
You felt there was something that interfered. What did you say?
There was more good than bad.
Oh,
did you feel the opposite?
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll discuss that in just a few minutes. But we saw the return of Max, and we hadn't seen Max in basically since they lost the television title. We saw 2 cage matches. One of them being historical because it contained 2 women wrestling in a cage in Alabama. It's kind of a big deal. They broke history. And then, of course, the world title match between EC3 and Tom Latimer. They've now faced each other 8 times in an NWA ring one-on-one. I don't think there has been a greater rivalry in the entirety of the National Wrestling Alliance since Billy Corgan purchased the NWA. I don't think I'm positive that Nick Aldis and Tim Storm didn't fight each other 8 times over the course of the extent of that feud. Figure 4 says, if you get to know him, you'll dislike him even more, but in a good way. All right. So again, this was the finale. It's a combination of the NWA's TV taping schedule and the fact that Max the Impaler has a propensity to compete in Japan for the Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling promotion that have kept Max the Impaler off of our television. In fact, we haven't seen her since losing the television title to Carson Drake at Saw Win. I guess it's no surprise that Sinister Minister was not in Max's corner for this match. It's the first time we've seen Max without the Cine Mini in tow. Max's opponent for Power was Tyler Franks. Franks is a product of the Jacobs Pritchard Wrestling Academy. And although the NWA kind of neglected to talk about it, he did have that non-title match against Tom Latimer not too long ago. He was also at the Return to the Indies event, and he wrestles quite regularly for Crossfire. I guess he's also Alabamian native. And so I was almost halfway expecting to hear him get a pop when he came out there, but I feel like this crowd, if you're not established in the NWA, they don't really care about who you are.
Real quick, Jay.
Yeah.
The proper way to say somebody from Alabama, is inbred.
That's Arkansas.
That's in roll.
Roll Tide. For the eternity
New
of
Jersey.
For the entirety of Max's entrance, Galley and Deals tried to reason why Tyler Franks would agree to this match. But in all honesty, I don't disagree with that. This is a very no-win situation for Tyler Franks. If he beats Max, it's like, well, the streak is over. It's not the same as when Carson Drake won the title. And if he loses, well, that's just one more loss on a very long list of losses. At 5 minutes and 27 seconds of watching Power, I felt like this match wasn't going to last as long as the intro for Max the Impaler, and it was pretty close. I think Max the Impaler took about 4 minutes to get into the ring and for the match to actually start. Unironically, Deal says that Max had double the workload as TV champion of both the men's and women's divisions, including defenses outside of the NWA. But Max defended the women's TV championship a total of 9 times in the course of the year of having that belt. And then Max defended the men's title a total of 5 times prior to losing that belt. If you spread that out on the calendar, Max defended a title slightly more than once a month, and that I would hardly consider that being a workhorse in any shape or fashion. The match kind of starts off when Max pushes Franks in the corner out of the ring and unloads on Franks like they are the illegitimate child of Big Van Vader. Franks quietly escapes the ring, and while Max is in the corner arguing with the referee, Franks gets out of the ring and chop blocks Max right in the leg, thus completing an Anderson-esque like attack on the leg throughout the rest of the match. I like to see this from Franks. Again, he's a newcomer. He doesn't have a very well-established storyline, but that was very smart. And when Max, without Sinister Minister, seems very rudderless and easily distracted by loud noises and referees telling them that they can't do things in the ring. Max is obviously the power here in this match, but Frank is faster and more agile than Max, and he takes control of the match pretty quickly. Max stumbles around the ring trying to get right with that leg being injured, but Franks was able to avoid one of Max's lariats and connects with a knee strike. Franks even connects with a flipping neck breaker, but it was only good for a 2 count. Galley says that this might be the most offense he's ever seen Max receive, which again made me scratch my head and go, didn't we see Kylie Page beat Max the Impaler and retain the women's title?
And Camille.
I mean, I guess maybe the most offense a male wrestler has had against Max, but I digress.
Isn't that scary?
Yeah. However, for all of the hard work that Tyler Franks did in that match, and really I felt like he did some interesting things, and maybe I could see a push for him later down the road. It was a clothesline that nearly removed Franks' head from his shoulders that gave Max the Impaler the victory 1-2-3. Again, I'm not a huge Max the Impaler fan. I really feel like they've watered that talent down since putting both titles on them and then subsequently putting them in the Crockett Cup, not allowing them to defend either the men's or women's television title, then forfeiting the women's TV title to challenge for the Burke, and then further watering it down by having them lose to Carson Drake. The mystique is gone. Dropping the title to Drake helped hurt the intimidation factor of Max. We saw it here tonight with Tyler Franks. He was not intimidated by Max. He did lack the power, but was not intimidated by Max. And previously we had seen talent, not be comfortable in the ring with Max. So for that, I don't think the match was bad in establishing Franks as a reasonable new talent, but I don't think it did any favors for Max at all. And the match itself was interesting because of the approach that Tyler Franks took, but it was nothing to write home about. DK, what did you think about it?
Well, I'm very much against thinking.
Especially when I do it.
Very true. Simple part was, unfortunately, they seem to be going the direction of Max is now going to be in the male division. And in the male division, Max isn't a monster.
No.
And so that Franks got in a lot of offense. And in fact, at one point, I thought they might lose to Max. I mean, they might lose to Frank, excuse me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if they were planning like a spiraling downward storyline because of not having the minister or whatever. And I didn't really get into this that much. Franks hasn't been, this is the strongest Franks has been presented. This is the weakest Max has been presented. And it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't come out of this match going, oh, wow, look at how good he was. It was more like, okay, I don't understand what the purpose is here. Who are they trying to get over? Because they failed with both.
Yes, I agree with that.
Sounds like they got them both under, and unfortunately in the process, maybe even got Mims under too. Because if this is the most offense any male wrestler got against Max, then what does that say to Mims? Also, real quick, I did look up the proper name for somebody from Arkansas. Apparently, you must address somebody from Arkansas as the hills have eyes.
Oh my God. Hey, you.
Well, I tell you what, don't call him a redneck.
No.
So, anyway, and some people may know where that's from. If you don't,
I don't know.
A show. Tell you about out there.
Okay.
And so anyway, yeah, this was very much a gone under. And strangely enough, I realized just since Jaden brought Mims up, Mims has held 2 titles in the NWA, the TV title and the national title, both of which were vacant when he won them, and both of them have been vacated by Tom Latimer to challenge for the world title.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's like, I was thinking about that earlier today. It's like, oh, that's just crazy. Because there's only been, well, we'll talk about that when we talk about what's coming up later. All right. So what happened next on the show?
So then we get this really, I thought it was a really good promo from Tiffany Nieves. And that doesn't surprise me. Tiffany Nieves can talk. she cuts this promo before a match, and she's been waiting to get her opportunity to get Natalia Markova one-on-one for quite some time. And you know, it was a solid promo. I mean, I didn't really highlight much of it because it was just, you know, pandering. You know, I'm here to beat Markova and get myself in the number one position for the women's world title. They kind of rehashed some of the storyline that the two of them have had. Now, it's funny because, you know, Jaden and I were there at the 76th anniversary show, and we saw where Markova and Nieves were going at it. And the natural progression you would think is like, oh, they're going to capitalize off that moment that they had at 76. But then they pushed it out and stretched it out all the way to Looks That Kill. So we're talking about matches that were happening in September. It didn't pay off until December, which we didn't see on TV until March, 3rd. So I felt like that kind of spoiled some of the excitement that I would have had for this match. And again, I know that the TV taping schedule is what it is, but until they get that wrangled in, I mean, every time I go to a live event, I'm seeing stuff that I didn't know because TV is so far behind and it takes forever to get caught up. Shame on Billy for adhering to this taping schedule when there is no legitimate reason for them to do this. As we've discussed ad nauseum on this channel, we just finished up with the Looks That Kill. The next signature live event is supposed to be Shockwave in Forney, Texas, that they filmed in January. Then they had some TV tapings in Tampa in February, and now we're heading to March. In next weekend, they'll be filming for Hard Times, and all of this stuff is going to take months to get on TV. And the news broke with Natty Neidhart going to the Crockett Cup, which is in May, and no one will see those matches until probably closer to like August or September. So that delay in these matches being recorded, getting excited about, and then not seeing them for months on end, really it messes with the ebb and flow of the NWA. I don't know if this is a byproduct of the NWA's taping schedule or what's happening, but if you watch their show that normally gets about 75,000 views on X, this week prior to tonight it was only at 40,000, and as I look right now, live numbers as I go to the X page on the NWA, the championship match has only got 40K views. That's 35,000 less than normal. So to me, that's very problematic when you are featuring a cage match with your two top guys. And I'm telling you, I can't tell you for sure what the problem is, but I can tell you having this energy where something big happens and they should be capitalizing on the news and information that's happening. They can't pull the trigger on anything for a couple of months because everything is already filmed and taped in a can.
If this taping schedule, if these tapings get any older, Leonardo DiCaprio won't date him anymore.
Draco's already not looking at him anymore.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. And Drake. What's a D-Lie?
I saw a meme and it had Alexa Bliss with pigtails and it had Drake going, "Hey," finding out she's 36. He's like, and that made me laugh way more than it probably should have. Real quick before we get to the match, Jammin' Music Man said, "What happened to Rush Freeman?" That's very odd and out of left field, but I kind of know the answer. I think I know he was unhappy with his position in the NWA, and I think he took up flying lessons, and I think he became an airline pilot. And maybe not an airline, maybe just a private pilot. But I think guy's flying an airplane now.
Like Jimmy Jam Garvin. And Ronnie Garvin.
It all comes back full circle, doesn't it?
And apparently Austin Idol.
Oh, please, that scares me.
Should.
I think Ronnie just flew the
Cessnas and stuff like that.
The small, low planes, the ones where you can pat a cow on in the head.
Sounds good to me.
Sort of. You know what else I don't get about the show, other than just the taping being, 3 months behind?
What's that?
Is that they're still doing the commercials.
Oh, that's the worst too, because the commercials are interrupting the action. Like, I get if you have a commercial,
And it's not a commercial.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about themselves. It's their upcoming show. It's this, whatever. I mean, it's not even like they have a sponsor. It's just them and again, I think this goes back to Billy thinking that, well, the big people, the big boys, they interrupt their matches with commercials, and we had to do it for CW, and so we don't take step backwards. So we're not going to show this.
I also believe it's wishful thinking. They're hoping they have spots to put there, but they put something there to fill the spot because they can't fill it with an actual paid sponsor.
Yeah, well, we need to stop. Did you actually talk about the match, Jay? I don't remember.
No, we haven't got to the match yet. And I guess, look, wishful thinking and a handful of shit gives you, a handful of shit. They got to stop thinking.
So does NWA booking.
They got to stop thinking about what could be and think about what is right now. And I think we talked about this last week. There's a very defined identity crisis in the National Wrestling Alliance, and I don't think they know what they want to be. And it wouldn't take much to figure it out. It just really somebody who could help Billy get these storylines to make them interesting and maybe more digestible and not as obscure. But maybe that's asking for far too much.
I was going to say that's asking a lot, don't you think?
Yeah, wrestling that's easy to understand and entertaining. You're right. That's a little bit much to ask. So La Princesa enters the Dothan Civic Center with a Singapore cane. The announcers point out that Nieves is the Exodus Pros Women's Champion and that Markova is the TSW Women's Champion. And, I mean, I feel
Wait a minute. Say that again.
That La Princesa, Tiffany Nieves, is the Exodus Pro Women's Champion, and that Natalia Markova is the TSW, NWA Texas Women's Champion.
That's interesting.
And
because she won the title after this was taped.
Yeah, and well, and the thing about it is, it's. I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing for them to acknowledge that these two top prize fighters in the NWA are territory champions, because they always make it sound like the territories are the place where they're discovering the new talent. And it kind of feels like when you mention Markova and Nieves in that same vein, it makes it sound like maybe they aren't established superstars and they're still just trying to get in themselves, And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in here and maybe I'm not making any sense, but it seems like by lumping the territory name with the superstar, that it makes them seem like less of a superstar. Does that make sense?
It sounds like to me you're trying to say that the territories, according to Billy Corgan, also have a bit of an identity crisis. Are they a feeding system or are they major parts of the NWA? And are those championships being major championships that they hold? Because I hope that's not the way that they're just feeder, because what's that say about Throw Billy or anybody else who holds a championship?
Well, and that also pauses the conversation just for a second to think, we all watched Jim Crockett Promotions. We were watching, what was happening in the Carolinas. And so when they saw a champion come in from a different territory, it never felt like they were beneath Jim Crockett Promotions, at least from what I can remember. Maybe you guys remember it differently. But I didn't feel like they were beneath the champions who were representing Crockett Promotions. So when you have your North American Exodus Pro champion and your Mid-American champion, and then somewhere you have your TV champion, Carson Drake, is he are those guys below him? Are they equal to, or what? Is power up here and everyone else is below? because like it didn't feel that way in the olden days.
A little bit later, one of the things I want to talk about was Chris Drummond had asked the question on Discord, okay, what's considered NWA? And I feel like this is a good thing to talk about when we get to that, because what is NWA? What's an NWA show versus a territory show? What were the New York things? Were they NWA shows or were they not NWA shows because they were actually done by, local promotion in the thing? It's just, so I think there's a good conversation to be had about this.
Okay, well, we could certainly look into that. Let's power through power if you don't mind.
Yes.
So Markova shows up without music and just runs to the ring. I like that. I like that because this is supposed to be such an intense rivalry. If she came out and doing her blowing kisses to the crowd and doing her karate kicks and stuff, I would feel like it reminds me of Jeff Hardy in AEW going to save Matt but doing his little dance beforehand. And just get out there and fight. This woman she stole your title match. She beat up your students. Go out there and kick her ass. That's the intensity should be in this match. And I was kind of disappointed that we didn't see that in the main event. But we get Markova out there. She gets into the ring, and Nieves gets her hand on that kendo stick first and beats on Markova like a drum. Just whack, 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 whack. And it's almost like Markova's a glutton for punishment because she knew she went into that ring unarmed, and Tiffany Nieves just beat her. Then Nieves uses the weapon to not only smack but also choke Markova out. At one point, she rips the belt off of Jared Fritz, and essentially she whips Markova with it first, and then ties her to the ring rope, and then tries to escape. And that was, I thought, a pretty interesting spot and something I hadn't seen before, so I kind of applaud things like that. Markova prevents it, literally. She escapes and prevents Tiffany Nieves from leaving the cage, and then whips Nieves with the kendo stick, so she gets a little bit of payback, and even connects with the White Russian leg sweep, which our boy Danny Deals points out, and that kind of made me happy because even Galley called it a side Russian leg sweep with the Singapore cane, and Danny Deals pulled it out like, nope, that's a Sandman's move. Nieves locks Markova in a submission hold, but Markova keeps fighting. Then Markova was efforting to escape the cage, and Nieves hung up on Markova like a backpack. So as Markova's trying to climb the top, Tiffany Nieves jumps on her, puts all that weight on, and then both of them fall to the ring. And again, that's when they decide to go to a commercial, and I'm thinking, like, what are we doing here? There's no network forcing you to do this. You're just deciding to interrupt the match for no other purpose but to tell us that the territory show is coming up. And it's like, I don't care. Let me see this match. So Nieves is down. Markova's on top of the cage. And this very interesting spot, I don't think I've ever seen it done before. Tiffany Nieves starts kicking the cage, literally kicking the cage. And that causes Markova to lose her balance. And it's a steel cage, and I don't know if you guys have ever had a body part on a piece of steel. I work in a place where there's a lot of steel, and if your knee just happens to touch something out of a heavy steel, it hurts. It hurts really bad. So just sitting on top of the cage, I imagine the cage hitting your leg, that hurts. So that was kind of an interesting way to do it. And then they both women are now fighting on top of the cage, and this leads to them battling like on that top rope, jockeying for position. Markova drives Nieves face into the cage, and Nieves goes down. She hits the ground pretty hard, and instead of going for the escape, which that's probably would have been the smart move, the glutton for punishment and the forever I need to prove that I'm a badass with an ice ass, jumps up on top of the cage and delivers a missile drop kick that was right on the money. It was a thing of beauty. They showed the clips on YouTube, or not on YouTube, excuse me, on X as GIFs and stuff, and I thought it was a very good way to end the match. Now, personally, I think Nieves should have just escaped from climbing the cage, but nevertheless, she connects with the drop kick, gets the pin.
Markova.
Did I say Nieves?
Mm-hmm.
My bad. Markova. Markova did that, and Markova gets the victory.
I can't believe they made graphical interface or whatever the GIF stands for. I can't remember. they made GIFs. They made peanut butter out of that move. It's GIF.
Call it GIF. You can call it GIF. I'm gonna call it GIF.
When does graphical start with a J?
I'm also gonna say.
I know Jay likes to put N's in words, but there's no N in there either.
I'm gonna say data, not data. Sorry, East Coast. Eat it.
It's only data.
Graphics exchange format.
That's it. I know what it was. I can't believe I couldn't think of that. Yeah, graphic with a G. Graph. I'd rather be called a griff than a GIF.
Are you still talking?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay.
Depends on if I'm paying attention or not.
Oh, so you never hear me. Gotcha.
So anyway, DK, what did you think of that matchup?
Well, I thought it was better than the other two matches on the show.
Okay.
I wasn't overly into it. I do agree. I like, Markova coming out. And probably my favorite aspect was that drop kick, because when she first launched off of it, it looked more like she was just going to drop, and land first. So she didn't go out very much. She kind of came down at an angle, but man, when she hit it, I thought that looked impressive. And so, so that kind of saved the match for me. So, but yeah, it wasn't a great match. I wouldn't look at it and go, oh man, this is one of the greatest cage matches I've ever seen. But it was decent. Of course, who knows what we missed during the commercial break. And hopefully that's over between those two and we can move on to a new storyline.
I just want to show this, and it doesn't need to be audio, but I just want to share this real quick. Is it playing? Why isn't it playing? It should be playing. Is that
technical
playing?
difficulty?
It turns out my computer's not as good as I thought it was. Do you guys see that at all, or no?
We see
image, frozen thing. Okay, there we just saw someone get thrown into the cage.
So that was Markova getting not thrown into the nice part of the cage, but like one of those steel beams, and we saw her bleeding in the match. And I'm pretty sure this is where she got busted open right here. Look, pop, right in the face.
Which, by the way, is right where she had gotten busted open that one time with chair.
Yeah, so
exact same place.
So ouch.
Yeah.
Real quick, on any of those things they put on Instagram, did DK leave inappropriate comments about the aspect of Markova that he likes?
No.
Just curious.
I just say them outright. I don't need to leave comments.
Noob says that was a great match. Markova has really put on some fire matches, but here's my question. Why has she not been signed by AEW or the WWE? And Noob, I know that you are a big, big Markova fan, but I'm going to say this. If the WWE wanted her, or if AEW wanted her, they could sign her. I just don't think the demand is as high as you think it is.
How old is she?
I think she's 36.
Okay,
Maybe.
So WWE would not be interested in her at all.
Remember they offered Thunder Rosa a referee position.
Yeah.
So she's 36 years old.
Yeah, so they just wouldn't be WWE just wouldn't be interested in her. And
be glad AEW doesn't use her. Do you want to be able to see her? And and the aspects that DK likes.
Freudian slip there, Jaden. Anyway, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Places can't sign everybody. And both WWE to an extent and AEW to a big extent have bloated rosters.
Let's think about it this way, right? Between Raw and SmackDown, you have a ton of TV time for your pro wrestlers. But let's also not forget that the WWE has invested in the youth movement, and they dedicated another 2 hours a week for NXT. And on top of that, now they have a show on A&E with the legends working with the young guns, the young guys who are still waiting for their opportunity. And now they're doing this Evolve show plus the WWE. What did you think of it?
Let's talk about it after we talk about Power.
Okay. I didn't get a chance to see it, but again, there is so much time that the WWE is generating for pro wrestling content that they cannot absolutely sign every single person on the planet. And like DK said, Jaden said, you don't really want them to, because you wouldn't see Markova on the Raw roster. You wouldn't see her on the SmackDown roster. It may be NXT. But remember, like, even some of the some of the bigger names in AEW when coming to the WWE start off on NXT brand with, very few
exceptions.
Yeah. Thank you. So, all right. So then that takes us to the main event. And
main event of the evening.
Another steel cage match for the World's Heavyweight Championship. Like I said earlier in the show, this is the 8th time that Tom Latimer and EC3 have squared off in a ring. Now, interestingly enough, both men have different theme music and almost different entrances to the show. And I kind of liked it because I really didn't care much for EC3's like Greek god music. I just kind of felt that was not appropriate for him as a character. And that whole overtones of him being a Dionysus or Bacchus or whatever the hell he wanted to be just wasn't working for me. But I
more
know,
Roman than Greek.
Huh?
He's more Roman than Greek.
He wished he was like Roman.
True.
Acknowledge that.
I did. But did anyone else get some Fight Club vibes when Carter came out to the cage? I mean, down to the Dust Brothers-esque theme music with the techno sound, the weird sunglasses, and members of Project Mayhem, members of the Exodus Pro roster underneath these masks. It made me think to myself, where's Marla Singer? Sir, if I had such knowledge of a Fight Club, I wouldn't be speaking with you about such a thing. I mean, I didn't hate it, to be honest, but it was a little on the nose. And I even think that one of EC3's original names in the WWE was something about Durden. I could be mistaken. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but it was very. I didn't hate it. I want that to be clear. I didn't hate it, but it very much felt like he was, Tyler Durden-esque here, and then Latimer came out and he had upgraded music too, where it was still kind of to the roots of the heavy death metal sound. They had like this voice going, Latimer, and I don't know. I felt like that was an upgrade to his previous theme music as well. So, Project Mayhem, the Control Your Narrative, the X-Pro Army stalk Tom Latimer as he enters into the ring. The match starts off with a lot of aggression between both guys. This isn't the first time they've been in the ring with each other. They're still getting to know one another. They're just pounding each other, punches, strikes. And again, I felt like the match intensity to start things off, I know Markova ran out to the ring, but I kind of wish Tom would have done that as well. Tom came out last because he's the world champion, but this rivalry is more than just the belt. These two have been in the ring with each other 8 times and have fought when there were no belts. So I feel like this would have benefited from a little bit more aggression on the way out to the ring. A lot of strikes, but the first real wrestling move is a modified STO on Tom, which I was really impressed with. EC3 pulls moves out sometimes that you don't see him normally do. Carter beelines for the top of the cage. Both men are fighting to get out of the ring, but as they jockey for position, Tom knocks EC3 down and looks like he's got a quick, easy escape. Nope, he punctuates his height up on the ropes with this really good moonsault, and it's not something you normally see from Tom Latimer, but this is in a match that Tom isn't normally in, so I kind of appreciate him stepping out of the comfort zone to try to do something different in a match like this. And I thought it was cool. So then Tom then gets back up, tries to escape from the ring again. Ryan, we had a good run, but I need you to pack your things and leave. You just got to go. You got to go, Ryan. You got to go, Ryan. All right. So Tom nearly escapes the ring, and then one of the ex-soldiers prevents Latimer from escaping with a chair. And not so much like he hits Tom or he even hits the cage. He just kind of menacingly holds the chair, and it keeps Tom from escaping. Then EC3 comes over, knocks down Tom, and willfully accepts the chair from the masked guy. And then he starts to victimize Tom with the chair. And then, like every single Tom versus EC3 match that's ever been, EC3 sets the chair up and sits down in it for a few seconds. And I'm just thinking, God, this is such a shitty callback. Why do we keep going back to this? And after a minute, or not even a minute, after a few seconds, he gets up and starts to go forward. But it was such a bad move when it happened the very first time when we were at Hard Times 3 in Chalmette, Louisiana. And DKM and myself nearly walked out of the building because it was such a bullshit thing to do. Why keep calling that back? Why keep reminding us of how stupid you've been in the ring, EC3? Tom does get control of the match and really takes the offense to EC3. However, EC3 connects with probably the worst Thez press I've ever seen him hit. His aren't exactly pretty anyway, but this one just looked bad. And that also led to Latimer taking a version of the pop-up powerbomb from EC3, which was kind of cool to see. You don't see EC3 do a lot of moves like a powerbomb. And I mean, he's a very muscular guy. I don't think it's a power issue. I haven't seen him do that a lot. So it was kind of cool to see him do something a little bit different in this match. After some more jockeying in the ring, Tom gets the upper hand. He spears EC3, and he starts to escape the cage once again. Now, the referee had inadvertently gotten knocked out inside. I think it was Kevin Keenan got knocked out inside the ring with EC3 was aiming for Tom and ended up hitting the referee. That took that referee out. And as Tom was approaching the top of the cage and lowering himself down to the ringside floor, Project Mayhem leveled out the other referee. And so there was no decision at that point because, again, both referees were not available to make that decision. And so now I feel like I'm Jack smirking revenge here because I feel like I am watching Fight Club and they're manipulating the situation. They take Tom, the group of the Control Your Narrative Exodus Pro guys, they beat up Tom and roll him back into the ring. And then that leads to EC3 going for his double underhook driver. And then you think that was it. It was all spelled out for Tom to lose. Tom kicks out on 2 3/4. That set EC3 up to try to hit his 1%er on Tom, which Tom reversed. He then connected with the pop-up powerbomb, then his own version of the 1%, and then just a good old-fashioned pile driver to finish the overman. Tom retains. EC3 was carried out by the Exodus Pro guys. I thought it was there were some complaints about it, but overall, I enjoyed the match. As DK says, in a vacuum, it was good. Again, we're talking about the World's Heavyweight Championship. I kind of would hope that this would have gone to a higher level, but the match itself wasn't, to me, it wasn't bad. It was a little bit overbooked with the Exodus Pro guys, but again, if he is Tyler Durden and this is his Project Mayhem, then that makes all the sense in the world to me that he has a crew of guys to help do some of his dirty work, because that's what Tyler Durden would do. DK, your thoughts?
I don't like it.
Okay.
I thought it was sloppy.
Okay.
In a common complaint of an EC3 match, I didn't feel like it ever really hit a second gear.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't like the mask guys around the ring. I don't even know that they're legitimately Exodus Pro guys. They could just be local talent or whatever.
I kind of feel like at least one of them is our friend formerly known as Johnny Yuma.
Probably. I wouldn't know. I didn't pay enough attention. But it's just, I don't know. 8 times, and I don't know that they've put on a classic yet.
So just for shits and giggles, because I was looking, how many times do they have a clean victory in the matches between each other, right? Like, how many times has Tom and EC3 had a match where they had a clearly defined victor? And so the first time they met at NWA 74, night number 2, ended in a no contest. The second time they met at Hard Times in New Orleans, Chalmette, EC3 defeats Tom Latimer via DQ. The next time they would face off against each other was in the 2022 Champion Series. EC3 and Tom Latimer end in a double disqualification. The next time they face each other at Highland Park in 2023, Tom Latimer is your NWA Television Champion, and the match goes to a 6-minute, 5-second draw. Then you'd think we'd see, maybe another screw job ending, but at the Crockett Cup 2023 on night number 2, EC3 defeats Tom Latimer in a national heavyweight title match. They lock horns again at Saw When, and EC3 defeats Tom Latimer as the world's heavyweight champion. And that was in a no limits match. Tom returns the favor at 76 by defeating EC3 to become world heavyweight champion. Then Tom and no, that was 76.
76, you're right.
Then Tom and EC3 square off again at the Sawen 2 in Tampa, and that match ends in a no contest. That's when the Exodus Pro attacked Tom. And then, so for their final match of the series so far, Latimer defeats EC3. As clean as that match could have been, like, he didn't have to cheat to win, and he actually beat EC3, who was cheating. So, advantage Tom.
Yay. I mean, again, I can't think of any classic or standout good moments. I only think of the classic standout horrible moment of EC3 talking. And just, I don't know. It didn't do it for me. I didn't like the guys being around. I didn't like when they were closing the door into his face, but they were hitting the chain instead of the edge, the metal.
Yeah, we have some Carson Drake fans, and I will address them momentarily. I do want to say this, right? So, like, we have to understand that now Tom has defended that title several times, and against some of the guys he's defended that title against have been pretty decent, as I'm pulling up the matches right now. He's got a victory against EC3. He had victories over Brian Idol. So far, nothing to brag about. He defeated Aaron Echo in Glasgow, Scotland, which was kind of a big deal because he took the title outside of the confines of the United States, outside the confines of the, New York or Chicago or Alabama. No, he took the title to Scotland. It might be home for Tom, but it's a rarity for the NWA. The NWA didn't have much of a contingency in the UK, except for the Hammerlock promotion and for the short time our friends over at Fight Nation when they had their promotion running. So there hasn't been a lot of NWA in the UK. So for Tom to take that title of Scotland, I think is a pretty big deal. And then just this past weekend, during the tour that stopped in New Jersey, we know that Latimer defeated Joe Ocasio, Ryan Clancy, and TJ Marconi. And these matches, like, clearly, I don't think any one of them have defined who he is or has been as a champion. But there's a very big opportunity that's happening next weekend for Tom Latimer, and I think it should be talked about because I feel like it's a really big deal. We wrote about it over at the alliance-wrestling.com website, but you've got the Nomad, Bishop Dyer, formerly known as WWE's Baron Corbin, a former U.S. champion for that promotion, is taking on Tom Latimer for the 10 pounds of gold. Now, oddly enough, these guys actually spent some time with each other at the Performance Center long time ago. And I think that, had the Natty Diehard news not broke earlier this week, that this would be the biggest thing that we're talking about in the NWA. This is a big look. I'm not going to try to lie to you and tell you that Bishop Dyer is a former world's heavyweight champion and somebody that has set the world on fire, but he does have a following. He is a relatively big name, and this promotion in Canada, Windsor, Ontario, Canada, is going to put the 10 pounds of gold showcased on their pay-per-view event that's happening March 14th. And I think it's a big deal, and I think it means a lot for the National Wrestling Alliance to be leveraged in that position. And although I don't think that beating Dyer is going to make Tom an instant celebrity, it's certainly going to put eyeballs on him. And I think it would even put more eyeballs on the NWA if the artist formerly known as Baron Corbin were to win the title. So first I want to ask you, Jaden, does this match carry the significance that I think it does, or am I overstating it?
I didn't even know it was happening, so I guess I have to start paying attention more. And then when you saw the picture, I had no idea that was Baron Corbin.
Yeah.
Baron Corbin, former King of the Ring, former United States champion, former NXT tag team champion. He's been on television in a big role somewhere in the WWE for a while. Did they use him as his best? No, not at all. He's also a former NFL football player too. So it's kind of weird that they haven't pushed that more of as a factor of his notoriety. But Maple Leaf Pro, a lot of people are buying into a type. It's got the Morse promotion, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a big deal, I think, for the fans. Tom Latimer is not very popular. The NWA is not really popular outside of its little niche circle, unfortunately. The name still means something, but the Billy Corgan's current run of it doesn't have the highest regard. But Maple Leaf Pro does, and I think this is a good shot for Tom Latimer to actually get that big defining win and that big defining match where people actually can see him and care about him and show what he can do. This is, to me, a lot bigger than being on X against DC3, who is still a big name and a former champion. This is the biggest match, I think, in Tom Latimer's post-WWE career, probably post-TNA career, probably, honestly, in all of it. This may be his biggest and most important match. This is his chance to define his legacy and define his reign as NWA champion and start it off to show exactly what Tom Latimer is and why he is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
DKM, I'm very interested to hear your take on it too. We've all been around for a long time. We've all been following the NWA for a long time, not just in this current incarnation with Billy Corgan, but also during the the International Wrestling Corporation era, the Pro Wrestling Organization era. We saw that title go to New Japan Pro Wrestling as part under Bruce Tharp's era. We saw that world title featured on many arena shows during the Pro Wrestling Organization era. And even before that, you had guys like Hashimoto, Steve Corino, Dan the Beast Severin, making that title very legitimate on their offerings during those days. What does this matchup mean? In this profile, you've got Maple Leaf Pro, and I don't know where they stack up in most independent wrestling promotions. It's still, for all intents and purposes, a very new promotion. I think they've only had 2 events before. They feature a lot of high-profile talents from AEW and the independents. They do feature a lot of Canadian talent. But, Baron Corbin had a pretty successful run in the WWE. It was limited to how high he got, but he did a pretty decent job for himself there. Was able to get the U.S. title, King of the Ring. All good things. What does this say about Baron Corbin that he's the man chosen to face Tom Latimer? What does it say about Tom Latimer that Baron Corbin is the man that's chosen to face him?
Well, if I were to be 100% honest, I would tell you I don't really know. Don't know how big of a deal Baron Corbin really is. Yes, he was a former U.S. champion. He went through a lot of goofy gimmicks. I don't know if he suffered an injury or what. He lost a lot of his build and, didn't look in the best of shape at the end. At various times he had go-away heat, not good heat. His best run was actually when he and Braun Breaker were NXT Tag Team Champions after kind of being, I think they were a little bit of rivals first. I don't 100% remember, but then then they ended up teaming and stuff like that. I don't know that. I don't know that he was ever that good in the ring. I mean, like when I see Ryan Davis say it would be badass or he should have beat Rollins. No, he was never that good. He was never that over. I find it interesting in that the NWA group in one way can just despise everything WWE related. And then on the other hand, anytime a WWE person becomes available, they're ready to crown them the next champion. And it's like, I don't really know anything about Maple Leaf other than, D'Amore's one of the people behind it. If they've had 2 shows, that's one more than I know about because I only remember one. They don't run regularly. They kind of run these big things. People think they're going to be the next big thing. Well, we know what happens every time somebody thinks something's going to be the next big thing. And so, things run their course. There's just too many other things competing for the spotlight. And everybody outside of WWE right now, and this includes AEW, everybody is just a niche market group. Some are bigger than others, but WWE has 3 hours of wrestling of a wrestling show, and they put on 60 minutes or not even 60 minutes of wrestling. Corbin has some name value, but that's not the name under which he's wrestling. So you already got to know who he is and what name he's wrestling. And again, if we're talking about drawing the casual fan, which means the casual WWE fan, no, I don't really think it makes that much of a difference. And so, look, is it something that if Vladimir goes over cleanly and pins him, that, he can stick a feather in his hat? Yeah, probably. But is it just, a great, wondrous, glorious thing? I don't really think so. We'll see. But in the greater scheme of things, the only thing that matters is at the end of the day is, will the NWA have, and what is the NWA? And, will they have more viewers or not because of it? And I think we've seen from the past, the answer is, even if you get 1 million people to watch Nick Aldis versus that one WWE idiot. Yeah, I was not saying his name on purpose. And that doesn't mean that you up your number of people watching by 500.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, here's okay. Two things. Yes, Maple Leaf Pro has only had had it up here just a second ago. They have had 2 events. Now this is like the incarnation of Maple Leaf Pro from when they were a member of the NWA from 1984. Obviously, at some point, Scott D'Amore got ownership of the company, but this was Jack Tunney's promotion back in the day. And this is the guy, they had a connection to the National Wrestling Alliance and the World Wrestling Federation. So they did feature a lot of NWA champions in the past. So it's kind of in the bare essence of the company, it's paying homage to what that promotion used to be, what they used to do. And they even had in the past done joint events with the NWA. So if we were to see them working together, that would be more of like history just repeating itself more than anything else. I think it's a good move. First of all, I think Baron Corbin is a guy that has enough cachet that people will say, wait a minute, Baron Corbin's going to be on the show. I'm going to check it out. Now, he's under a different name. And like you said, DCAM, you got to know who he's a different person now than he was in the WWE just to keep up with it. But, I'll say this, the NWA on X, which is where they leverage most of their audience now, and they're seeing, between 40,000 to 75,000 people watch Power every week. They only have 115,000 followers. I'm one of them, right? You're one of them. Baron Corbin, or the artist formerly known as Baron Corbin, has 521,000 followers. Now, sure, he's been on WWE programming. Of course, he should have more. But he does have more, which means on the basics of it, there is opportunity to bring eyes to this. Whether they do or not is entirely, it just depends on how well the numbers do. And, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling tends to use talent that, again, is associated with AEW, or they're like free agents on the market. The matches that are going to be happening, besides the world title match between Latimer and Dyer, is they're bringing in I'm not even trying to pronounce that guy's name. Rohan Raja will be defending a title against Rich Swann. It's the I don't know what title that is. The PWA Championship Grail. Don't even know what that is. And because of their connections, Maple Leaf Pro does partner with Qatar Pro Wrestling, the Oceania Pro Wrestling, and the Pro Wrestling Alliance. So there's I guess there's quite a few connections there. Anyways, so I think it's a good company to be working with. If this is, and maybe I'm hoping for more than what's really here. Maybe this is just one title match or one-off. But I still feel like the opportunity, if this can do some decent buys for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, wouldn't it be a good idea to bring a match similar like this to the NWA? And what if, and I know this is the go-away heat that you guys were talking about, but, I think a lot of people would be talking about this match if Tom Latimer has a really good victory over the artist formerly known as Baron Corbin. But wouldn't there be a hell of a lot more people talking about the NWA if Baron Corbin won the world title at this event?
Talking about it in a positive light's a different thing. As much as some people like to try to give into otherwise, controversy isn't always a good thing.
And yeah, you're right. But I'm also quite aware that the currency that the NWA is currently trading on is attention, is eyeballs, is people watching the product. They're on X. X doesn't pay for views; it pays for engagement. And you have to pay to play to even be on X. So, like, they're not looking for people to necessarily buy a pay-per-view. They're looking for people just to give them attention. And if any attention, is good attention or bad attention, is still attention. And I'm not saying controversy creates cash, but controversy does create eyeballs watching it. I don't know. Do you think? Go ahead.
Well, here's part of the problem. Let's say it creates eyeballs that watch them, or creates eyeballs to watch them because Corbin does it. What are people going to see? Current booking, current power, current way they do things? There's nothing there that's going to attract anybody. I mean, Jaden doesn't watch it. You and I have both stated the only reason we watch it is, 3/4 this show and 1/4, childhood memories of NWA. And so it's like, I mean, they put the title on Cody when Cody was hot on the thing and lasted 40 days or 50 days or however long. And, after that, everything went back down. And their booking was even better back then.
Yeah.
Not great, but better.
Well, we argue about this, but I do need to commit to this point. I feel like having Cody win that title advanced a lot of the progression of what the NWA needed in terms of eyeballs, in terms of getting attention, because they went with that, and by the end of the year, they had their own TV show on Power. I guess the next year, the next year they had their own TV show on Power, and they started having their own pay-per-views. They had the 70th anniversary show, which is a standalone pay-per-view. Then they partner with ROH to do the Crockett Cup. So I do feel like it kind of pushed a little bit. And I'm not saying that Baron Corbin's is Cody Rhodes by any stretch, but I mean, at the very least, it could push. I'm not saying it's going to, but it could.
Well, I mean, I think there was a benefit to it, more that it was on the pay-per-view for, was it All In originally?
Yeah.
Yes, All In.
So more that it was on the All In pay-per-view. It's a shame they couldn't do the trilogy of matches like was originally planned. I think that would have helped a lot more. And it's just one of those. But you have to have a product that people want to watch, and I just don't know that the NWA puts out a product that people want to watch. So,
except for the only people that want to watch are people that have Stockholm syndrome, like you two.
Yeah, basically. And so, or people that just want to loot themselves into thinking that's good. We see a few of those occasionally on Discord. But yeah, I mean, look, would I be 100% against them putting on the artist formerly known as Baron Corbin? No. Would I think it would do much for them in the long run or even the short run? No. And, do they need to do something to build up people and challengers and improve their storytelling? Yes. And that, I think, would be more important and do more good than hot-shotting the title to any former WWE quasi-name.
Well, and I believe hot-shotting, right? Like, hot-shotting is not a game that I think the NWA should be interested in playing. But I think, again, just getting some eyeballs on the product, to me, I think is a worthy endeavor. And, if it's not a clean, straight victory for Latimer, then the next best thing is you hope that EC3 is involved somehow to get back to that NWA attention. But, if Baron Corbin loses by disqualification or Tom loses by disqualification, I feel like it's a wasted endeavor. So, anyways, I never really want to see an EC3 screw job, but I'd rather that than Tom lose by disqualification or something ridiculous. We talk about bringing eyeballs to the NWA, and obviously there was the big announcement that happened. We can't ignore it. Obviously, you guys have heard it. We've talked about it at the alliance-wrestling.com. But Natalya will be in action at the ECW Arena on May the 17th. Tickets are already on sale. Tickets are already selling fast. And I think this is a pretty big deal. I was doing my history right before the live stream tonight. And one thing that I realized is that the last time the NWA and WWE had anything kind of working together, you'd have to go back almost 30 years to 1997, 1998, and the induction of the NWA Invasion onto Monday Night Raw, which saw, Howard Brody and what's his name?
Dennis Carluzzo.
The Carluzzo was there. I couldn't think of Dennis. Dennis Carluzzo and Howard Brody, along with Jim Cornette and Jeff Jarrett, brought out this dubious faction of the National Wrestling Alliance and recognized Jeff Jarrett as its NWA North American title, a belt that I still wish I could have owned. And also brought in the Rock and Roll Express to the WWE programming. And later, Bodacious Bob and Boombastic Bart as the new Midnight Express. And the angle itself was kind of hokey and silly. They even brought Barry Windham into the fold, and he battled for that title. And Blackjack Layfield would challenge for the North American title, going back to his time in NWA Dallas. All that was very interesting. All that was pretty compelling. To get to the crux of it was when Dan the Beast Severn walked into the WWE Monday Night Raw with his UFC titles and, of course, the 10 pounds of gold. And that felt like the whole NWA angle might have just been a way to introduce Severn to the National Wrestling Alliance. Again, that relationship didn't last very long either, and that whole invasion angle was done by that summer. What we know for a fact, because the promoters of that time have said, is those times that the NWA was featured on Monday Night Raw is what saved the NWA in those days, where it was literally Dennis Carluzzo and Howard Brody and maybe one other guy, transformed into a myriad of promotions that kept the NWA afloat, including NWA Southwest, NWA Florida with Joe Price. And we would see a lot of growth from the National Wrestling Alliance because of that instance. It even trickled down where it worked in reverse, because at the NWA 50th anniversary show that took place in Jaden's backyard in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, you had talents such as Dr. Death Steve Williams. You had Kurt Angle before he made his WWE debut, Sean Stasiak, and Tom Pritchard all compete in a battle royal. So you saw some of the WWE talent being used on this NWA event. Then, of course, we would see the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, defeat the Tennessee Volunteers, who were your NWA North American Tag Team Champions. That's Reno Riggins and Steven Dunn. The Headbangers will win by disqualification. So that's your second match featuring WWE talent. Then there was the main event was Dan the Beast Severn versus William Regal. And at the time, Steven Regal was still featured pretty prominently on the roster, competing for the European Championship. So that was really the last time we had an influx of WWE talent in the NWA. Now, we saw AEW talent not too long ago show up in the National Wrestling Alliance. We've seen MLW talent featured in the National Wrestling Alliance. Of course, it's not weird to see guys from the United Wrestling Network show up in the National Wrestling Alliance, but this will be the first time in 30 years that we're seeing genuine WWE talent featured on an NWA event, which is coming up on May the 17th, the Crockett Cup. Jade, I'm going to ask you first because you took your microphone off mute first. What do you think of Natty Neidhart coming to the NWA? Do you think it's just going to be a one-off? And do you think she's challenging for the Burke on May the 17th?
I think this is great because now nobody can claim that the WWE has a monopoly because even the NWA has some involvement. What they should do is if she's not getting a world championship match against whoever the women's champion is at that point, maybe she should team up with Natalia Markova and be called Natty by Nature or something like that, or something on that lines, and maybe face the tag team championship, and that way 3 stars can get a rub.
So you don't think she will be wrestling for the Burke?
That's one of the options. If she's not wrestling for the Burke, then she should be wrestling for the tag belt with somebody to give 3 other wrestlers the rub. So either way, there should be something to come out of this. It shouldn't just be, just a one-off and nothing happens. They need something to build from this. Just like the Corbin thing, they need something to build off of this and need to get something out of this. If either the women's championship and then whoever the women's champion is gets a rub, or the tag team champions, or just 4 women wrestlers, or somebody has to get something out of this to really make it worth its while. Otherwise, it's just a publicity stunt. And publicity stunts, unfortunately, don't always have the best business improving benefits in the long term. So that's why we really need something in the long term for this. And maybe if it's done well, it won't be the only time the NWA does something. Kind of reminds me of when Bobby Eaton and Arn Anderson showed up in ECW, and also same basically in Smoky Mountain. And they had some of their biggest crowds ever at that point when Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton. There was a little bit of something, and then out of that whole thing, Sabu, I think, and I forget who was else in that match. Was it Terry Funk, maybe? But at least the ECW got a lot out of that, and so did the Rock and Roll Express, so did the Heavenly Bodies, and so did the Stud Stable with Dirty Dutch Mantel. They all got something out of that, including the promotions around. So that's what they need. They need something like that to really maybe, hopefully, jumpstart the eyes into the NWA.
Now, DKM, Neidhart, not Markova. I'm going to get caught up on the 2 name, Natalia. Before, during the announcement being made, they did it on Busted Open Radio. And one of the things that Natalia kept echoing is that she said, I want to be a champion. For me, it's not just about going to the WWE and getting a paycheck. I have moved, this were her words, I have moved heaven and earth to do this for the NWA. I don't believe in phoning it in. I don't believe in coasting. The NWA represents everything I'm about. It's going to be such a special show for me to be a part of, especially because it is for Billy. I just think Billy is amazing, and I love what he's doing for wrestling. I don't know how I feel about what Billy's doing for wrestling, but that sounds like a motivated individual, but it also sounds like an individual that is here for a show. What are your thoughts on this one?
I don't know what to think because I don't know what's actually going on. Has WWE, anyone outside of Nat, said anything?
That's a good question.
I mean, has there been anything from Triple H or a commentator or another wrestler, anybody other than Natalie Neidhart?
That is a very good question, and I don't know that there has been.
I think it's similar to what's going on with JBL, where it's JBL was on all these places, and I think Natty Neidhart's also going to be on a future GCW event.
Yeah.
I think they're just working the bigger independents to basically have some kind of say to, hey, look, we're not a monopoly.
You're C-3PO, Human Cyborg Relations again.
Human Cyborg Relations.
Yes. And so I don't know if it's one of those cases or, well, I don't know how well the JBL things worked or not. think it's great that she shows up, and I do think people will talk about it. And I just don't know. I mean, will she challenge for the title? I don't know. Unfortunately, JBL's already retired, so we don't. He goes in the ring, does his clothesline from hell or whatever they call it. It would be cool if she challenged for the title. If somebody could if the champion at the time would get a clean win over her. I mean, I think if that would happen, then I think that that would be a good thing.
Well, and I
think what I don't know is this a one-off, and and how much. I mean, WWE might be behind it in the big greater scheme of things. I don't think this will be comparable to when NWA officials were on WWE, and one of WWE's main creative people at the time and talents at the time was involved. So I don't think it's going to be something like that. But I mean, it's not. I'm far more interested in Natalya than I am in
Corbin.
Corbin.
And
I think wrestling fans are far more interested in Corbin.
I tend to agree. And it's not I'm not besmirching Baron Corbin's name, and I don't think he would have any ground to stand on. But look, he just doesn't have the same accolades that Natty Neidhart has. I mean, she's a Divas champion, she's a WWE champion, she's an NXT Tag Team champion, but she's also been a member of the roster for damn near 20 years. And I don't think there's anybody who's on that active roster that has been there for 20 years successively and not taking a break. And if there are more than Natty, there's not many.
Has Natty Neidhart ever acknowledged who her uncle is?
Owen?
She does have an Uncle Owen.
The British Bulldog?
I guess he would be an uncle. By marriage, maybe?
Yeah. We're talking about
I think there's somebody else. Oh, yes. That guy.
Yeah.
Put an S in front of his nickname, and I'll tell you what I think about him. No. Yeah, that guy. Has Natty ever acknowledged that that's her uncle before?
I'm positive. I mean, I don't have an exact moment, but I'm positive she has.
What has she done more? Acknowledge that she's Brett's niece, or Brett acknowledging how much he hates Goldberg?
Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, yeah. Obviously Brett and Goldberg, but it's close. She wears the pink and black to the ring, for crying out loud. You got me there, though. I bit into what you were saying. I didn't think about it, but yeah. Here's my take on it. Look, this will be the first time in 20 years that Natalia Markova. Excuse me. See, I told you that Natalia's going to throw me off. This will be the first time in 20 years that Natty Neidhart had stepped into an NWA ring, because once before she did step into an ECCW ring in it's not Calgary, but in British Columbia. And she did challenge for the Supergirls Championship, a title belt that she did not win. Although, oddly enough, some websites acknowledge her as champion, but there's no proof that she's ever won the title or defended it. All that to say, if Natty Neidhart were to do a short program with the NWA, which it sounds like to me, they're letting her do GCW, the blood sport. They're letting her work in the NWA. We know that she has her own school where she's training students. I think at this point, they're like, hey, look, we don't have anything for you. So if you want to take some dates, you go right ahead. Just work safe, Or maybe she's going to get out of her contract. I don't know. But a short program with Natty Neidhart holding the Burke, I think, would be very good for the NWA. Especially, and I'm not holding my breath for it, but especially if she shows up on NXT wearing the Burke, or shows up on Evolve as the NWA Women's World Champion. I mean, years ago, this had been crazy talk, but now is it really out of the realm of possibility that an NWA talent could appear on NXT, or maybe Evolve is more likely? Would that blow your mind if it happened? And I know that DK watched Evolve last night, so I want to get his take on it. But Jaden, what do you think?
People forget during a couple WrestleManias ago that they had a little thing going with a bunch of talent to hype a WrestleMania, and EC3 was actually part of it. And I remember I went ape shit about that because, here's an NWA talent. I'm not even sure if he was, I think it was like NWA TV champion at the time or something, whatever he was at the time. Here's an NWA talent that was on WWE television. And, it's maybe I still have a little bit of mark left in me, but I thought that was kind of cool for the NWA. I think that if Natalya shows up with the Burke on any of the television programs, I think that'll be good for the NWA, even if that belt is ugly and stupid and small and I hate it. I understand it, but I hate it. And I think if any NWA talent does work Evolve, or maybe some NXT talent, Involved talent works the NWA and some of those WWE ID, I think it helps the NWA overall, but I don't think it'll blow my mind.
You guys are small. So yeah, I think DK might have just stepped away from the old PC. DK, you still there?
I'm here. I got a headache.
No worries. I don't mind if you keep the camera off, but my question for you though is, what do you think about what did you think about Evolve? What do you think about the idea of possibly more independent talent show up on that program? And could you believe a world that would have NWA on that program?
I believe a world that could have NWA talent on that program.
Not as a member of the NWA?
Yeah, I don't know that they'd be recognized as NWA talent. They might. I don't know. I watched it for a first episode. I would say they have some kinks to work out. It was a little too non-kayfabe for me. The first match, which was a women's tag team match, they just kind of, the teams just, at least one of the teams just seemed to be thrown together. And, there were both teams did a lot of tagging where, one teammate got close enough to the corner that the other one slapped them on the back. And they weren't always working together or whatever. The 6-man tag team at the end was, I don't know enough about the people to know if these are, like some of them, the one team did seem to fit. It seemed like an actual team. I wasn't as sure about the other one. And I found it very I mean, it's like if you're going to put on a wrestling show, put it on like it's a wrestling show, not acknowledging that. And maybe for the first one or two, you do this just so people understand what they're getting, but not just, oh, we're randomly throwing people together who aren't ready for TV to see how they work on TV. It's like, give me some tag teams, give me some singles wrestlers, male, female, whatever. Tell me if they're heels or faces without, you don't have to directly say, this is Billy Sue, and Billy Sue is a face, and she's going to wrestle, Bobby Joe, and Bobby Joe's a heel. But there should be something that tells me who they are, whether it be a 30-second clip or whatever. And so the wrestling was mostly good for people who were, obviously still more in the beginning. Some of them were ID I think the guys were like a lot of ID students and not Performance Center. So it has room for improvement. It wasn't bad or horrible or God, I'd never watch this again. But it was like, let's find a lane to get in and let's do that. I don't want it to be like Tough Enough or some of the others that they did. So, boy, are you clicking away on something there, Jay?
Yeah, our pal Ryan Davis is leaving, and I wanted to write something real quick to say, hey, thanks for tuning in, and tomorrow tune in for the rest of the show so you can hear my take on CBD and that world heavyweight title.
So,
DK, may I ask you a couple questions about the Evolve event or Evolve show?
Sure.
How long was it, and was it only 2 matches?
It was, I want to say 40-something minutes. Probably of actual show. There was an introduction, whatever. And why do I want to say there were 3 matches? If there were, I don't remember what the other one was. I had a brief moment in between the two where I'd missed the beginning of the men's 6-man. If James H. Jackson's still out there, he was watching too, and he may be able to remind me. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a shorter show, and I think it's just going to feature, a few matches, and not 70 minutes of talking in a 30-minute show. And yes, I know how I put those numbers.
I went real quick to look on Cage Match to see if they had any.
3 matches, 47 minutes. James, thank you, James.
I went on Cage Match to see the results, and it's like I don't think this is the right Evolve. Manzor defeated Anthony Green. Harlem Bravado defeated Stephen Wolf. Joe Gacy defeated Colby Carino. JD Drake defeats Kurt Stallion and Jake Atlas. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think this is the right Evolve. Those matches took place in 2020.
Well, here's actually a funny story. I was going to watch it on Tubi's and watch it on my big TV.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it. And I knew it wasn't with the live thing. I knew it was like one of their shows that, was basically a premiere stream or whatever. But I could not find it. And so I went into the search and typed Evolve. And it popped up all sorts of wrestling shows, but not that wrestling show. And so, apps and websites don't always work the same.
Yeah.
And so instead what I did is I turned on my trusty VPN and signed into London, went to YouTube, and it was the very first thing on my YouTube page was Evolve. So I went ahead and watched it and backed up the 6 minutes it took me to find it and watched it like that. And so, I actually watched it on YouTube with a VPN. I also watched AEW last night.
Sorry to hear that.
It wasn't the worst show of theirs I've ever watched. I will say that the announcing is absolutely terrible. Think back to Velvet Sky, Austin Idol, Joe Galley, NWA levels of bad. It was hard to get into a lot of the matches for me. I certainly didn't think any of them were great. I thought some of them were actually bad. Some of them were okay. And I guess I was far enough out of knowledge that trying to understand Cope, which a name I hate, by the way, versus Wheeler Yuta. Why Wheeler Yuta's the last one standing after they took out all the others with concertos in some past week. And then, so at the end, spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen AEW this week, Cope shakes Wheeler Yuta's hand and goes, that's respect or whatever, and things like that. and took off. So then John Moxley came in. He was mad at Yuta, and Yuta got mad at him and walked away. And so I don't know, maybe the Death Riders are over now. I would be really happy if they were.
It's the only way I ever heard the Death Riders.
I don't even watch it, and I'd be happy if they were.
That's the only time I heard the Death Riders and over in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Sorry, that got me.
Yeah. And so all you got to do is check out the ratings, stuff like that. I'll be really interested to see what the ratings are on this. So I'll wait for Jim Cornette's review.
Does Tubby have ratings, Tubi?
I doubt it.
Do they acknowledge their stream count?
I don't know enough about TV. I've watched shows on there before. But in fact, actually, I saw some shows that last night when I was looking for Evolve that I wanted to watch. So now it's like, ooh, Tubi, I need to come here more often.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I don't know if they acknowledge it or not. As a WWE product, this is what I say. If numbers are good, they'll tell you. If numbers aren't good, they tell you that they're not shared. That's what I've learned.
It's none of your business. That's what.
Yeah. I mean, because trust me, I don't know what the numbers are on Max for AEW, but AEW does. You know?
Yeah.
And so it's that type of thing. That's why I said I go. I've heard people say, "Oh, on Max, this got, good streaming, and that got good streaming." A few years back, they did a live action version of, DC's Titans that had Nightwing and Starfire and Raven and Beast Boy and some other characters in and out from the seasons. And, they told us how when HBO Max, as it was known at the time, started out that was one of their top streaming things, and they even threw out the occasional number. So if it's good, they let you know. They tell you. We'll see.
So, real quick, we are heading towards the next Signature Live event that is going to be called Hard Times. Hard Times, Daddy. And interestingly enough, Hard Times has never been in the same month twice. We've had it in January, February. We've had it in December. And now we're having it in March. So that's interesting.
Every month could be Hard Times.
Daddy. Every month is Hard Times, Daddy.
We went in October, didn't we?
No, November.
November?
Yeah. And so anyways, Hard Times has announced, the NWA has announced that Carson will cash in his Lucky 7. Now, I didn't see this logo before, but I heard that the match was announced. And my only reaction was, anyone care to guess?
You were ecstatic.
Anyone in the comment section care to guess how I felt about Carson Bartholomew Drake?
You were throwing babies in the air.
Cashing in? I don't think there's anyone going to respond, but I freaking loved it. And you're going to say, wait a minute, J Cal, if that's your real name.
With jazz hands?
Every single week, how much you think Carson Drake is boring and not entertaining and not very good in the ring. It doesn't believe in his promo abilities, and it's hard to buy into him when I don't feel like he buys into himself.
And he doesn't even know what beta alanine is.
Doesn't even know what beta alanine is. Doesn't know how that affects the body. Anyways, I think it's fantastic, and I'll tell you why. It does so many good things for us as NWA fans. One, first and foremost, if you're cashing in your Lucky 7, that means that Carson Drake has had 7 victories as television champion. Now, maybe he didn't win 7 times, but he successfully retained 7 times. And I'm not going to tell you that Carson Drake is my favorite wrestler, but if he has 7 victories, 7 times where he did not lose, That's what I've been asking for from the National Wrestling Alliance. I want wins and losses to matter. So I want them to, if they're going to give Carson Drake that title match, he had to earn it. So that first of all, I'm freaking thrilled just because they are sticking to a plot line that makes so much sense that they've chosen to ignore so frequently in the past. So I'm happy that Carson Drake won 7 matches or did not lose 7 matches to get this opportunity. They're following with their own storylines. Brilliant. That makes me ecstatic right then and there. Secondly, and probably more importantly, now that Carson Drake is no longer your television champion, I have said that at least 5 guys would make sense as your next television champion, and I didn't see any of them being a good fit or a good feud for Carson Drake. But now a guy like Colby Carino, a Kerry Morton, a Spencer Slade, any one of these guys could come in and upset, like Daisy Kills. These guys, I feel like, what are you doing with them right now? Hell, even AJ Kazana, who I presented the idea to him on Wednesday night. You guys will hear that next Wednesday if you're up for it. 5 of those guys would make great television champions. You know, AJ Kazana has great promos. Colby Carino is really fun to watch in the ring. Kerry Morton has the legacy and the Southern Six. And Spencer Slade is a beast in the ring. And you have so many compelling storylines of where this could go now. There's, like, God willing, it doesn't end up on somebody like Zion. You could have something very interesting happen with the TV title. And as Carson Drake is champion, I've been not entertained. Before that, Maxine Paler is champion, was not entertained. And unfortunately, Mims's run as TV champion didn't have enough time to be anything more than boring. So I'm excited for 2 reasons, because now we're going to have a new TV champion after Hard Times. Or no, is it Hard Times? Yeah. No. Yeah, Hard Times. So we'll have a new TV champion after Hard Times, and we'll have, Carson Drake will have earned that shot. So these are 2 really good things. And then I'm thinking Tom Latimer's still going to be your NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. Nothing so far has indicated to me that he is not. Tom Latimer is going to beat the dog piss out of him. Tom Latimer is going to what is Jacob Fatu say? He dog walk him. He's going to dog walk him. And I can't wait to see. Finally, Carson Drake is going to get me excited about a match, because I'm going to see Tom Latimer, our world's heavyweight champion, dog walk that boy. So I'm excited. There's 3 really good things that are going to happen because Carson Drake gets a shot at the title. I've never been happier for Carson Drake to fail forward than this moment right now. Well, I guess next week or 2 weeks, March 22nd. I'm ecstatic for it. Jaden, what are your thoughts?
I can't wait for like the 5-6 months so we can say it, or at least you guys can. I probably won't watch it.
That's true.
I hope there is a good match to crown a new champion. That's what I want to know now. That's what I want. I hope it is 6 guys, 5 guys, 4 guys, 2 guys, whatever. However they decide to make a new champion, I hope it's people that are deserving of it, that every one of that match needs to get elevated. And I think it's something we can see and that we'd want to see. And I'm looking forward to a new TV champion. And I also, like you, hope it's not put on somebody that doesn't deserve to be like Gags again. I hope I didn't give him an idea.
Dude, you just jinxed the whole damn thing.
I'd rather Zion than Gags the Gimp. And not that I have anything against Zion, but still.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would too, but that's because Gags the Gimp shouldn't ever have a title. DK, what are your thoughts on Carson Drake getting an opportunity for the 10 pounds of gold?
Well, I'll say this much about his title reign. Most of his title defenses came on territory shows, so I'm glad they actually counted them. Title's going to be off him. They didn't take forever to do this. I mean, he hasn't been champion that long. So, what was it? He won it in October?
Yeah.
So October, November, December, January, February, March. So that's 5 months. So that's not bad for a long reign as champion. And hopefully they kind of put that Lucky 7 stipulation back into having some meaning at least. And most importantly, hopefully they can put the TV title somewhere on some people where they can do some good stories and help elevate some people. You know, get them some wins, get them some losses. I don't think we've had a 2-time champion yet for TV title.
No, we haven't.
And so
time for Tyrus to come out of retirement.
Shut up, Jaden. And
Pope. Can we get the Pope?
Oh, I would love to have the Pope back. But you know, but what I'm thinking is, you know, it might be neat to see that title change hands a couple times back and forth between some people. That's part of a storyline and whatever, you know, actual booking, Billy. So, yeah. I mean, if this is the way you got to do it, and I'm kind of like you, I'm assuming, I don't think this is going to make Carson his standout moment.
Gotta hope not.
So I'm assuming Latimer will probably have a pretty easy time. I am a little concerned though, because Latimer's had some weird title defenses. He's defended against Aaron Stevens, supposedly. And, you know, I think against Brian Idle twice when he first won the title and stuff. I would like to see Latimer be, you know, to be programmed with anybody other than EC3.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would like to see Latimer start becoming the focus of the actual company as world champion. And I'd like to see him start spending and worked in programs with some of the top, if there are any top NWA guys right now. We got Tom Latimer, EC3, and Thrill Billy. Outside of that, who's a top guy?
We don't have one.
That's what I was afraid of. And so, yeah, I mean, and that's what you're supposed to use the TV title and national title to, so that, you know, you can build people. You could build Mims if you do it right.
I think Mims has potential, and you know it feels like they're going to keep pushing Carson Drake, so hopefully he grows into something. But like I think in the interim, like you said, there isn't a lot of top tier talent in that world title picture, and that makes it hard to have a top tier champions right now. So I'm not suggesting anything different than we have already discussed, but if the idea is at some point that one of these guys is going to take the belt off of Tom, they need to be built up, and it shouldn't be EC3. If EC3 is the guy to take the belt off of Tom, I feel like I would rather EC3 be the guy to take the belt off the guy who takes the belt off of Tom. And give us a break. I like EC3. Honestly, I still think he's an asset to the company. I'm not thrilled with his inability to get to that second gear that we've talked about, but I still think he's a huge asset to the company. I still think he is a draw in the sense of the NWA can benefit from him being on the roster. I think he is a good world champion. I just don't think him and Latimer really need to face off anymore. I think it's time to give somebody else an opportunity.
More than somebody. I mean, we need some top runs and challengers. Sometimes in wrestling, and you especially see this in the territory days, where, if a champion held the title more than 3 months, it was almost a miracle.
Yeah.
And, but it would almost be like, okay, the champion wins the title. The champion has his rematches with the former champion. The champion has one program with, somebody else, and then the champion loses the title to the next guy.
Yeah.
And maybe they'd trade some titles back and forth occasionally, but, Tommy Rich and Ron Bass, for example, and Tommy Rich and Mass Superstar a couple times. But it's like, come on, let's do something here, people. Let's get this going. Let's bring some excitement. Let's get Latimer against some people. I mean, and we were talking about just people who could be on solo runs. You do them right. You got Kratos. You do them right. You have AJ Kazana. We have Real Billy. You do them right. We have Mims. And and these aren't always people that you have to go, oh, they're not going to win the title. Well, no, not today. But you start putting them in those matches and building them. I mean, come on. How many times did Gary Von Erich wrestle for the title over how many years before he won it?
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, and he won it fast compared to most people. So, Sting, how many times did Sting challenge for a title?
Yeah.
How many times Ricky Steamboat challenged for a title? So, Ricky Steamboat started getting title shots in Harley Race's second title reign. So, it's
well, I mean, I guess we're all saying the same thing, I think, is that we would like to see something different at the top of the card. And the NWA has the pieces, but nobody should be put in that position on the roster now. They need to be built up to that position. And I feel like that's the catch-22 is that's not Billy's strong suit, is building up a roster. He grabs pieces that he likes and puts them in to the show and kind of lets them wing it. And some of these guys have hit home runs and some of them haven't. And I feel like if there was someone there that could produce some of this talent and like, hey, this is our game plan to make this wrestler a legitimate contender for the 10 pounds of gold. This is our plan for this guy to make him a legitimate contender for the 10 pounds of gold. Which direction do you want to go, Billy? Because I think there's a lot of guys on that roster that could be meaningful to help build up that title and help, not necessarily even hold the title, but like you said, challenge for it. Like, why can't Spencer Slade go on a run and challenge for the World's Heavyweight Championship? Why can't we get, somebody like Wrecking Ball Legursky, get a few wins underneath him, build some momentum, and get a shot at the 10 pounds of gold? Like, I don't have a problem with guys challenging that aren't going to win. Like, I'm okay with that, but give them the storyline that goes with it. The wrestling is at its best when the athleticism meets the entertainment, and things have to make sense, and the wrestling has to look good, and it makes it very enjoyable for us, the viewers. And I feel like there's times where the NWA is so close to getting both of those things right, and then they don't.
Yep. Okay, so then that brings the one question up that I want to get before we check out, which was what Chris Dogg asked. What is the NWA? Because for the first time ever, we kind of got an NWA promotion plus territories. And so when we say NWA, what are we talking about? Is it power-based? Is it everything? Tiffany Neves defended her Exodus Pro Championship against Kylie Page when Kylie was the JCP champion. And everything. Who's what? What are the rankings? What are the titles? Where do things fall? Where does the TV title fall? Because it's been on territories a lot recently. The U.S. tag team titles have been on territories a lot recently. Oddly, the national champion has not. And then, of course, every promotion has their own set of too many titles. So, I don't know. Jaden, what are we talking about when we're talking about the National Wrestling Alliance?
You're talking about Billy Corgan, and that's the problem. You're not talking about power. You're not talking about the territories. You're just talking about Billy Corgan, and I think that's what he likes about it. The NWA is Billy Corgan, and the rest of it's just him flaunting that he owns it. So, in reality, it should be power, and it should be all the territories as a conglomerate to make up the NWA. Power being the big TV show where the stars are trying to make it so they could go around and become potential NWA World Heavyweight Champion and earn shots and get television wins and get TV championships and get national championships and have matches that are meaningful and get to the shot at the world title because that's the ultimate end. Unfortunately, the NWA right now is a vanity project for Billy Corgan, just so he could fluff his own nutter and make himself feel like he's a wrestling promoter instead of actually doing what needs to do to make money and be a real promoter. And that's what the NWA is. Anybody else have a different opinion?
I mean, look, to what you're saying, there's a lot of validity to that. I tend to look at the NWA as anything that Billy Corgan is touching at the moment. So, we the viewers, look, it also depends on your level of interest in the NWA. Because if all I do is watch Power on X and I don't go to the social media accounts and I don't follow what's happening outside of Power, then yeah, that the NWA is Power, period. But, if you were to go to the NWA right now, they have the territories. And if you go to the territories, they list all the results for the territory shows. So, February 23rd, Dial Dempsey beat Chris Lyons at the Paradox live TV tapings for NWA Texas. Why did I say Texas like that? Or the NWA on tour on February 23rd. Brian Idol with Sean Watcher defeated Max Bain, Giorgio Lawrence, and Face. And again, these are the results of what's happening at the NWA. These are live events. These are not being televised, but they are posting the results on their website. So as a fan, if you go to the NWA website regularly, you're rewarded with seeing results for the territory shows and for the on-tour shows. And to a point, what I think DK was saying is like, look, this should all just be NWA. There should be no designation that the NWA on tour or the NWA territories. It should all just be the National Wrestling Alliance. This is the NWA. This is our TV show Power. We do live events that sometimes get branded as Power or just our live tour shows. And then the territories are still just a part of the NWA, another part of the COG. But again, the whole identity crisis with the National Wrestling Alliance with Billy, again, what do you want to be, Billy? You own the company of the NWA, but you also have a territory? Why? Why isn't it just NWA? Why does it have the designation NWA Chicago and it's a different roster when you are the owner of the NWA? If you want the NWA in Chicago, you just say, okay, guys, be here at this time and here's your paycheck. What's the point of having the designation as a territory as well as owning the brand? That just seems odd to me. And you guys are both muted, so you're not saying nothing.
Well, I'm curious as to what these on tour, like when you look at the results of the on tour, you see that, yes, there are NWA names on there, like NWA Power people, but there are also like others.
Yeah. Well, so I'm looking at the results from the New York show in Freeport for Championship Entertainment Productions. And what it is a Championship Entertainment Productions event with an NWA brand. A lot of guys in the Discord have speculated that CEP might be the next NWA territory, which would make a lot of sense considering they're basically already booking a lot of the NWA talent as it is. They brought in the Slime Balls, and the slime balls were there, and they beat like Aaron Stevens and the local tag team. Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiator, former World Wrestling Grand Prix champion Chris Steeler was on the card. A former NWA champion Papadon was on the card. But then guys like Man Bun Jesus, who works with Exodus Pro, he was on the card. And they did do a Joe Kazana Promotions Women's Championship match with Kylie Page defeating Natalia Markova. And then they had Brian Idol on the show. But yeah, I see what you're saying, DK. There is a lot of the other promotions talent. Joe Ocasio is kind of like in between the New York promotion and the NWA. He got an opportunity to wrestle against Tom Latimer. So we just saw him in a junior heavyweight qualifying match not too long ago. So they really do just kind of go all over the place with the live tour shows. But I mean, that might as well be just an NWA territory.
One of those shows, they crowned tag team champions of whatever they were calling that promotion's tag team champions. Something weird. I don't remember what it was anymore. And they weren't like NWA pro tag, whatever. It was just, that was their thing. And so I find it weird. Like you bring up, you have NWA Chicago, which is just NWA. And because it's run and owned by the same people that own and do the national promotion for the NWA. And then you got people going, well, whatever that group is out in New York, they're going to be the next territory. But they're running, when they run NWA shows, they run it as NWA on tour, not as a territory type show. Oh, come see the NWA.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't really have an answer or really have a thought. When Chris asked it in Discord, I was kind of the same thing. Well, that's a good question, because my first answer was Jaden's answer. Well, it's just Billy.
Yeah.
Whatever Billy is, that's the NWA. But then it's like, when we were talking about like hierarchy of titles and what's what and who's where, and the Mid-America champions, there's an NWA promotional title. Back in the days, we used to call them BOD titles, board titles.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's an NWA title, but we don't know anything about it. The NWA hasn't told us anything about where Plunkett is, who's Plunkett's wrestled, who he's defended the title against. I suppose if we want to know, we got to follow him on social media, if he has social media.
He does.
Yeah. Yeah, and everything. But it's just so, and he's held that title for, assuming he still has it.
Yeah.
He's held that title for like 9 months now or more. And so it's just, but I don't know anything about that title. And so we got the U.S. Tag Team Championship has supposedly been decided that we're going to have the champions on Power, but they're not going to be there and we'll recognize them as the champions, but they're not really going to be defending the titles because that's going to be a territory thing. And I just get lost. I get confused. And we have a TV champion going defending his title on various things. And then we have, Dog Pound Down Texas, which used to build their title as a world title, which I know, makes Jaden happy because Jaden loves it when places build their titles as world titles. And, it's just a lot of confusing stuff. And it's one of those, I think it's, I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question, Lou. And we'll see.
I do. May I just say real quick to his question what I think the answer is?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's people that are trying to get a foothold in the NWA started kissing Billy's butt, start running a promotion, and call themselves the NWA and working with it. So maybe they can get recognized and pushed by Billy Corgan for doing a good job.
Do you think that's why Joe Kazana is a part of the NWA?
No, I believe Joe Kazana lives, bleeds, and loves the NWA more than what he does either of his two children. And that's a lot because he really loves his two children. But Joe Kazana loves the NWA and would love being part of the NWA, and that's a big deal for him. But I believe Kylie Page and the Page sisters and her sister Kenzie, Kylie and Kenzie, their promotion is so they could work with Billy Corgan because Billy Corgan gave them so much and got a platform. So they're looking to help, do something with Billy Corgan. And I think the same thing for all the NWA promotions. I think that's also kind of why Brian Idol is so important for these territories and why he works on many of them, because he's also trying to put his big name out there and his face out there to become something big in the NWA and be useful to Billy Corgan and get a good paycheck out of it and be something in the NWA because that's what he really wants to do. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with that either, by the way.
At the end of the day, right? Like, I know it's not like big, huge money contracts, but there's got to be something to be said about the wrestling economy that Billy is adding to. I'm not saying that he is changing the face of it, but a lot of these NWA guys, when they signed these deals, some of them were able to do more professional wrestling and less, hey man, I just do this job during the week so that I can wrestle on the weekends. It's helping to create more real life professional wrestlers and not just people who pretend to be pro wrestlers.
Say what you will about Billy Corgan's crappy booking, and I make sure I do.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for the NWA, I don't think we'll be seeing Camille in AEW. I don't think we'll be seeing Thunder Rosa in AEW. I don't think we'll see Ricky Starks or Ricky Saints or wherever he is now. I don't think you would see him at the height that he has and the success that he has. I think it might have put a spotlight on Eli Drake to make him LA Knight. I think a lot of people forgot about how good of a talker Eddie Kingston was, and I think the NWA put a spotlight on that. I think Nick Aldis is where he is because of the NWA right now. I think a lot of wrestlers owe Billy Corgan and the NWA to put a spotlight on them and mean something and be able to raise their paychecks and be able to wrestle territories. Some of these guys didn't start off as household names, but now people are booking your Wrecking Ball, the Gurskys, and your Thrillbillies, and their talents are being showcased and shown through so they can get these independent bookings and these territory bookings. And I think they do all owe that to Billy Corgan. Bar Billy Corgan right now is probably looking like that one South Park meme with the guy very exhausted in his chair right now, listening to me to talking about him. But yeah, they do 100% owe Billy Corgan and the NWA that, and I think people know that, and that's something they want to be recognized because that's a spot that maybe be able to get bigger independent bookings and higher paychecks and maybe make it into a bigger program and make it into a bigger television show and maybe make something a career out of this little sport we call professional wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, at the very least, we could say that and not have to, if someone says, hey, tell me something good about Billy, I can say that.
Well, look, I can say, having watched Evolve, AEW, and NWA within 24 hours of each other, pretty close, that NWA wasn't any better, but they weren't really any worse than what I was watching.
And that's a compliment, mind you, for anyone who's listening, that he said you weren't any worse. And that's almost like, you're not bad. I think that's a good place for us to wrap it up for tonight. 2 hours is a long time, and we went a little bit over that. But I do want to give DK an opportunity, or Jaden an opportunity, to talk about any upcoming projects they have in the works. If you gentlemen, the stage is yours. We'll go with Jaden first.
This next weekend, is it this weekend or next weekend? One of the weekends coming up, whatever the 15th is. I think that's 2 weeks from now. Dog's going to be part of the Nerd Force Fan Fest. We're going to have a table there. We're also going to do a promo contest where the fan who gets the best promo gets to cut a promo against a dog superstar. Hopefully they cut one on Dave Dahl and chew him a new one, because he sucks. And then we're going to have Back to Rowan on the 17th of April. Rick Walagurski is going to be there from the NWA. Notorious Mimi from NXT. A Conquistador is going to be there. You're going to see Tyson Maddox. He's a big superstar. He wrestles in Japan now, and he wrestles. He's really talented, and hopefully the NWA sees something with him. And you're also going to see Donovan Dijak take on not Bill Goldie, take on David Goldie for the World Wrestling Grand Prix Championship. I can't wait to see that. The Dog Championship will be on the line. The Dog Tag Team Championship will be on the line. There's going to be a lot of really great pro wrestling superstars and Daredevil Dave Dahl there. Then 2 days later, we're going to be part of the South Jersey Geek Fest. That's going to be on the 19th of April. There's going to be matches going out through the entire day. I don't know how long it's going to go, but I think we're supposed to go from like 10 to 5, I think. I don't know. I'll find out when Dr. Zakarnim tells me what's going on, because he doesn't tell me anything. And then that's going to go on in the South Jersey Geek Fest. That's a big local Comic-Con that's really started on small groups, small roots, and worked its way up to being a much bigger deal, and it's growing every year. And hopefully that leads to continual working, because they do their Comic-Cons twice a year. So that's hopefully maybe Dog does a good job, and you'll see that twice a year at that. You're going to see the event at the Sacred Heart Church in Riverton, New Jersey on the 28th of June. Sorry, I'm trying to think of dates off the top of my head. 28th of June, it's going to be the Sacred Heart. Already signed right now is the return of DGAT Bundles, the OVW superstar DGAT Bundles. He was seen on the Netflix OVW show. And he's going to be there. He's going to return to Dog, and I can't wait to see him back. He's a good kid, and he's a good wrestler, and I like him a lot. And he'll be making his return. I don't know what else is going on because nobody said anything. Because again, they don't tell me anything. I'm just here because I'm pretty. And then you're going to have the event in the Monmouth County Fair. It's going to be a big fair. I know there's some kind of superstar from American Idol is going to be singing. I have no idea what her name is. Honestly, I don't really care about music. Everything I like is gone, and we unfortunately have to listen to the oldies now, and that really pisses me off. But or classic rock at least. But so that's going to be there. It's going to be Dog Pro Wrestling. It's going to be a 5-day event, and it's the 25th or the 23rd to the 27th of July. So that's kind of cool. That means 5 days of wrestling action. I know Biggie Biggs is going to be there. I think I have to confirm Falaba might be there. Unfortunately, Dave Dahl will probably be there too. But that's going to be going on, and that's something I look forward to. I don't have anything set yet, but let's just say Dog might be returning for Pause with the Cause. Just waiting for some kind of confirmation on that. And of course, they're working on something with other universities out there. And Dog just became part of DACA. It'll be actually officially happening in May. So that means you might see Dog in multiple places, in multiple universities throughout the Mid-Atlantic area. And who knows if that'll even grow up beyond that. And I know they're negotiating with a military base. So there might be one of the military bases might be having an event. But again, I don't know the details on that because they don't tell me anything. I just kind of heard that they're the grapevine. And because they asked if I'm allowed to be on a military event, I'm like, with these guns, of course I'm allowed on any kind of military base. With I'm bringing the big guns. And what else? That's probably it. And check out YouTube because there's a lot of matches in there. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And Dog just added a Reddit page. I have no idea what it is because I didn't even know Reddit existed until now. So blah.
You didn't know that Reddit existed until now?
No, I 100% did, but I never actually had a Reddit page. So
I was thinking about starting one, but who's got time for it? Hey, DK, do you have any IHWE updates or anything you want to talk about?
Well, if I can get off mute. Really, guys, this has been a fascinating journey. I've got pretty far into negotiations and with the building, told you that got totally wiped out and back to square one. I've now advanced to square two. I found a couple of new buildings to talk to. So we're hoping to get something going there. The wrestling business is exhausting, as I'm sure Jaden would agree with. And for every step forward, there's about 5 back and occasionally a chair shot to the head. So just stay with us on this journey as we try to get something going.
And there it is. I think that's going to do it for us for the night. Again, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us on this Thursday. I hope you found some new information. I hope you found the live stream informative and fun. And we'll be back here again next Thursday with you guys to talk a little bit of wrestling. Of course, I'll be here on Tuesday as part of the pre-party. And the other Alliance guys, I believe they'll be here on Sunday with their program. Last week, Tim and the boys covered NWA Power. Dave Scooby gave you some fantasy booking. And, yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with us. If you like the show, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. If you want to financially support the live stream, you could do so by buying some of our merchandise. It's available on the Streamlabs merch. Link is in the bio. Or you could partner with our partners and get yourself some W or a replica title belt for your club, organization, or fantasy sports league. And all proceeds from that, well, not all proceeds, but we get a nice little incentive when you guys purchase with our partners. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm exhausted, and I sure think these guys are too. So we're going to call it a night, but we will see you again at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.